Hey everybody, welcome back to GR Research. Today we're going to look a little through a window into what's going on here at GR Research. As you know, we do lots of upgrades because people send us lots of speakers. And today we're going to look at this little Emotiva model. It's the Emotiva Model B1 bookshelf speaker. And before we get into that, I'd like to say today's t-shirt, and as you know, people send me t-shirts and I wear whatever is sent in if I like the t-shirt. This one with a little face on it is from a band that's local down in the Denton area called Days of Summer. And it's a band that a couple of my employees play in. And I picked this up from them recently and thought, you know what? I'm wearing that in the video too. So if you've got a cool t-shirt that you want to see me wear in a video, you never know. Send it to me and I might wear it. Okay, let's look at this Emotiva. You know, they actually make some pretty good product there. Most of the speakers that we've had in here of theirs measure fairly well. They're built as cheaply as possible, but to give you the most bang for the buck for as little money as they can. In other words, they're definitely built to a price point, and the parts quality is pretty expensive, but for what's there and the drivers and the design work, they didn't do a bad job at all. And this is a good example. If we look at the frequency response on this thing, you can see a little hump right there in the range from about 1,000 to 1,500. That's the only problem I see with the whole speaker is it's got a hot spot right there and it's in a bad spot. Other than that, the frequency response is fairly smooth across. The horizontal off-axis gets a little choppy as you go off-axis, but not bad. And then the vertical off-axis, as you go up or down, you start seeing a cancellation effect right there because this little tweeter does not play down real low. And that's typical of all the little AMT-style tweeters. These tweeters are just not capable of playing down very low. And the way they're made, they just have a back plate right up against the diaphragm. There's no airspace behind them. There's no deep cup or anything to allow for a nice, long, gradual roll-off. It's a lot cheaper to just put a plate right behind it and no damping material. And it'll sound just fine so long as you don't play it down very low. And it just won't play down very low because of that. But the driver, the woofer, also very inexpensively made, little stamped steel frame. It has a little beauty ring that goes around it that kind of finishes out the trim and makes it look nice. The binding posts look nice on the outside. They've got some steel parts on the inside. A thinly made little box, but overall, for the application that they're building it for, it may work out really well and it may serve a lot of people really well, but somebody thought, you know what, I bet Danny could make some improvements to these things, and I'm going to send him one and see what he can do with it. So here's what we did with it. Oh, and if we go back, factory measurements, I didn't pull that up a second ago. Let's look at the impedance curve. It's a nice smooth impedance, no issues there. And if we look at the spectral decay, where that hump is, there's a little bit of energy there, but it's more of an amplitude peak. We're not seeing it trail out really long like a lot of stored energy there, so there's not a lot of ringing. It's just too loud right there. So let's look and see what I was able to do to this thing. When I was done, the frequency response obviously didn't have that hump in it. Nice and smooth now. And if you look at the crossover response, I tried to get that tweeter down as low as possible and still keep it within its means. It crossed about 2,900 hertz and rolled off pretty well. Looking at the horizontal off-axis, smoother than it was. There's a little peak there around 3K, but overall pretty smooth. The vertical off-axis is a little bit better, but not a lot. The crossover point is still kind of high, so as you go up and down vertically, the time arrival they do shift a little bit because the wavelengths are pretty short. I could have put a lot of parts on there and created a lot of phase shift and try and keep those things in phase in a range where it's more on axis and above it. It would have required a lot of parts. That doesn't make any sense. With a little speaker like this, even as we're doing an upgrade, we're trying to keep it as low cost as possible so you get the most bang for the buck because this is a bang for the buck speaker. Impedance curve now. Still a little more balanced than it was. No big deal. Spectral decay, though. Look at this. With that amplitude peak out of it, you'll notice the whole thing drops off pretty quickly. So there's not much stored energy in this thing at all. This is a really clean spectral decay. So it's just going to play and stop, no overshoot, no ring, no breakup, nothing. So clean sounding little speaker. And we put good quality parts on there, some good air core inductors from US Cools and polycaps from JB Cap. And there's a little bypass cap in the tweeter circuit. Good quality resistors, good wiring, one set of tube connectors. So we're improving the signal transfer from one end to the other on this thing, and still trying to keep the cost down. The overall cost for the whole kit, $275. That does not include a sheet of no-res, because we just didn't feel like including a sheet in this. For one, it only takes about half a sheet to do the pair, and two, I'm trying to keep the cost of this way down. If you guys want a spring, though, for a sheet of no-res, it will make another improvement. It'll take a little bit of the ring out of the cabinet. But overall, once you do the upgrade on this thing, it should be a really great sounding little speaker, and still for no money. You might even find these out there on the used market for nothing. So that's it for this little model. I appreciate you guys watching this thing. Like I said, it's a little window into our world to see what we're doing. We're doing this stuff all the time, and this is just another one that turned out really good, and I like this little speaker, and I like what they produce there at Emotiva. They make good quality, low-budget stuff that's not bad, but with a little help can be really good. So if you haven't subscribed to our channel yet, please hit the subscribe button and the little bell notification button down there too, and it'll notify you when new videos are coming up. I've got more to shoot and a lot more work ahead of us to get new speakers upgraded. So stay tuned. We got more coming. See you guys in the next video.